What was the question?
I was going to say, like, I mean, the podcast is pretty recent within the last year. How has it changed your life since starting it?
I think the biggest thing first is that it turned us into businessmen and not podcasters. So now with 40 Central being an LLC, we start our conversations with business first.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. We start our conversations with business first. So how can we move these T-shirts? How can we move these sweatsuits? We're talking business. We're recognized by the state. This is how you break generational wealth, in a sense. Anybody could do a podcast, but not everybody can do a business. 100%. And I think that the way it changed my life is that now we're businessmen.
Not every podcast is a brand.
Exactly. Okay. And now you have to approach us as such, right? And I think that right there is how you're breaking the cycle of generational wealth. And I think it's starting, for at least with us, with this podcast, and everybody who's been supporting us, and everybody who's been inspired to do their own thing as a result of this podcast. This is about ownership.
Before, I don't really want to cut you off,
but you did. But go ahead.
I did, but ever since we started this shit, how many people started their shit after us?
A bunch of people. A bunch of people, which is great because
and we don't want to take no like I don't want to say like I think I did this because you did this. No, but a lot of shit came out after we did. Like it was just like the kick.
Right.
Exactly. This shit is about what the fuck do you own? Because when you own something, people can't tell you what to do. People can't tell us how to run this podcast. They can give their opinion, which is fine. We're always open to different ideas and opinions and stuff like that. But what do you own? And that's what this podcast for me is teaching me. We own this shit. Nobody can tell us what to do. But this podcast is nothing without our supporters. Let me get that out in the open first and foremost. Our day ones, our first and last time listeners, our people who just now tuning in today. That's fine. But to answer your question is this podcast taught me the importance of ownership. Because now if Cole wants to get on this podcast, or Leah wants to get on this podcast, or any one of our family members want to get on this podcast, they have to act, or they have to come through us. That's ownership. You call the shots. And I think that too often we forget the importance of owning the fuck what you do. What do you own that you can just pass down to your kids, to your kids' kids, or whoever you want to pass it down to?
Not you, because I see you over there. Not you.
And I think that this podcast has taught me the importance of ownership.
You're the worst.
And the importance of having your company, and the importance of having your name on that company, and the importance of having lawyers, and the importance of having the
and also the self-awareness behind that, though.
Exactly. Like that's what this podcast has taught me, is the fact that you need to own what the fuck you want to do, whatever that.
And also, like, I have my own endeavors I want to like go after this, and he wants to. He has his own vision of whatever he wants to do. You know what I mean? But you know what this podcast did? When he needed information, this podcast had we paid for lawyers for this, and now he knows where he can go with his next move. I will never stop him from doing his next move. Because I want my.
Or else I would sue you, but that's beside the point.
Whoa,
throwing that out there.
But
listen, that's what lawyers are for, right?
That's what the lawyers. How you gonna use my lawyers against me?